Hi, my name's Kris, and I am in the middle of too many series. Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is one of those ones that a whole lot of fantasy readers come out with every year where they go, I read fantasy, and fantasy has about 4 million series, and I'm in the middle of about 2 million of them, and this video is no different. We're going to talk about the 33 series that I am in the middle of and actively want to finish at this current point in time. Before we jump into the list, make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Now, this is all about shaming myself on the internet, which honestly is nothing new at this point, but like a lot of fantasy readers, I do get intrigued by the new and the shiny, and I want to see the new series because there's so many incredible new releases that come out each and every year, and I'm watching new release videos right now coming out for 2024, and my TBR has just imploded on itself because there are so many cool releases coming out. But I do have a list, like I said, of 33 series that I'm in the middle of, and I would actively like to try and close out probably 10 of these in the new year, or at least have not as many series that I've started and not finished as I've completed. There's a whole lot of series that I want to start and finish or get up to date with next year, but I would also like to work on really start closing some of these out. So without any further ado, because I've been talking for too long already, I will jump into the list and I'll let you know if this is something that I might be finishing in 2024 or whether it's just in the future at some point. Starting off with the Radiant Emperor duology by Shelley Parker Chen. I have not read book 2, He Who Drowned the World. This is the beautiful broken binding edition. I really liked the first book. I know a lot of people didn't, but for me it was quite nostalgic. I learnt Chinese growing up. I've got a minor in Asian studies, and I really enjoyed being immersed in the world more so than the story, and I didn't mind the story either. No one's good in it. I know I agree with a lot of the criticisms, but I still somehow enjoyed it. So I would like to get to that one in 2024 and finish off that duology. The next one I have is The Song of Kamaria by T.A. Bruno. I am up to book 3, The Threshold of the Universe. I read book 1 last year. I read book 2 this year with hopes of finishing out the series this year, but it just didn't happen. I do have Threshold of the Universe book 3, which I'll put up here, to complete the trilogy next year. The next series, which I don't plan on finishing off next year because it is a trilogy and only books 1 and 2 are out, is The Dark Gods by Tara Sim. I read City of Dusk last year, really enjoyed it. I've heard the second book is quite good as well, but I don't have plans to go onto it just yet. Another one that I would like to get up to date with in 2024 is I think it's The Ancient's Blood, I'm pretty sure is a series name. This is by Cassidy Faylene. I read The Awakening Fire early this year. The author was kind enough to send me book 2 this year, but I have not gotten to it yet. It is on the cards to be read either this month or early next year. The next one I'm in the middle of is Jurassic Park, and I've read Jurassic Park. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It was my first Michael Crichton, and I can't believe I haven't gone and read more Michael Crichton because it was brilliant. But I do want to read the second book, which is The Lost World, and I think there's just 2 of them, and this is the carry-on. But I've not gone ahead and done that. I bought it to this house with the idea that I would finish the next book, but I just haven't, and it's still sitting on the shelves. Another thing that I'm still ongoing with is Night Angel. So I read the trilogy last year. I quite enjoyed it. Yes, there are criticisms to be made. Of course there are. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was entertaining, and I would really like to get to Night Angel Nemesis, except how many pages is this? It's like 850 pages. I didn't have time to put it in the TBR this year. I was going to read it with John Palladino, and I don't think either of us have, so that is ongoing. Next up on this list is 2 from one of my favorite authors, L.L. McRae, and that is both The Dragon Spirits and also The World of Lunaria. With The World of Lunaria, L.L. McRae has stated that she's trying to get books 5 and 6 out in 2024 to finish off the series. That makes me very excited. It also means I need to catch up with book number 4, Issa or Isa, depending on how you pronounce it. I've read the first 3. I need to read the 4th book, so I'm ready for when book 5 and 6 come out in 2024. I also need to read The Shadowgate, which is book 2 in the Dragon Spirit series. I've read The Citron Key, and also, which was the novella for the series, and also The Iron Crown. I read that this year. Really, really enjoyed it, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I think 2024, we'll see if I can catch up, but The World of Lunaria is going to be my priority for next year. The Legend of Drizzt by R.A. Salvatore. I bought all 4 of these books to this house, being like, yes, I'll probably get through those 4 this year. And then the new shinies happened, and I just didn't get around to it. I still very much want to get back into Drizzt. I really enjoyed book 1 and book 2. They're super easy reads, great palette cleansers to fit inside of your TBR, and I just didn't. So I have no excuses there, but I will continue them at some point. I should mention that all these series are the ones that I do want to continue and finish off, the 33 that I have. Next up is The Ashes of Averin. This is by Tiago Abdallah, starting with A Touch of Light. This is a book that I still think about from time to time. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as others did on their first read through, but it is still a book that I very much, a series that I very much want to read. There were criticisms that I had for the first book that I've heard are better in the second book. And I think the stories were great individually inside of that book. So I'm very excited to see where they go. And it's a book that I still think about. And I think the elements were all there individually, but the reading experience of the first book was a little bit jarring for me personally. But I can't wait to pick up book 2, and all the covers are released. All of them look fantastic, and the series just sounds like it's going to be one of the greats. Speaking of great, the Blood and Steel saga by E.J. Noble is also on this list. I had every intention of reading book 2 this year, and I didn't. And since then, book 2 and a novella has come out, and book 3 is in the works. So I really need to get a crack on with that series. Also, the covers are just incredible. Another one I'd like to continue on with is Mortal Techniques by Rob J. Hayes. Now, technically, these are standalones, but they're sort of a group of 3 standalones within the one set, and I've read the first book, and I really enjoyed it, and I would like to continue on with this series. I don't have any plans to at the moment, but I do have like the trilogy set on Audible, and I've listened to the first one, so potentially an audiobook may be able to fit in. Another one that is ongoing and I really do need to catch up on is the Star Children's Saga by Palm Pickering. I've got book 2 here in my hands, Light Fighters. Again, a book that I bought to this house with the intention of continuing on with the series, and I just haven't. So I am hoping to get to that one in 2024. We'll see what happens there. I'm excited about another release that Palmer has coming out that I was lucky enough to beta read for, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading more of Palmer's stuff because I quite enjoy it. Then we come to a series where I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, because book 1 was so heavy in terms of thematics, and it wasn't like it was a technical read. It wasn't like the language was hard to follow, but it just took me a long time to get through, and I think the rest of the series is going to be that way. And this is the Primatere or Primateri, depending on how you pronounce it, by S.A. Tholen. Book 1, The Iron Truth, won the first SPSFC, and it's very clear to me why, because it was such a good book, but at the same time, it was such a heavy book. I really want to get to the rest of this series. I do not know when. I do not have current plans to pick up book 2 and beyond just yet. The next series on this list is The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper. This is a historical fiction series which is set in Pompeii, and it's about the one woman in particular, but the women who are in one of the brothels there. It is quite brutal, even though it's beautifully written, and I really love the first book, The Wolf Den, but I've not picked up books 2 and 3, which are now out, and I can go ahead and do that. This is another one I don't have plans to read next year, but it is one that I have on my radar to sort of slip in if the mood takes me. The next one we have here is The Ranger of the Titan Wilds by J.D.L. Rizal. I read book 1, The Last Ranger? Yeah, The Last Ranger. This year? It was this year or the end of last year. Really enjoyed it. Lots of fun. And I would like to pick up book 2, but I haven't yet. But I will be backing book 3 on the Kickstarter when that one comes out, because it's just full of artwork, and beautiful artwork at that. The next one here is one I was tossing up whether to put on this list or put on the Not For Now list, which will be coming out in another video, but it's made its way here, and that is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I really, really loved The Eye of the World. I think as a world-building driven reader, it has some of the best world building, some of the best foreshadowing for what is a 14-book series that I have read. And it made me really excited to delve deeper into that world and delve deeper into the lore and what was happening. The fact that Rand shits me so much as a character, and I don't know that he gets all that much better from what I have heard. I've got two people I talked to about this. One says he gets better, one says he doesn't, throughout the series. So, that's very opposing views. I was going to put it on the not for now list. I have read book 1 and I've read book 2. I've enjoyed both of them, and I'm up to book 3, and I've probably put that aside for the last 10 months. I will not pick this up until I finish Malazan, which, spoiler alert, is on this list, which will be towards the end of next year. A series that surprised me with how much I liked book 1 was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I don't think Brandon Sanderson is going to be one of my favorite authors ever, but he writes an enjoyable story. I've only read Mistborn Era 1, and I got quite bored with it, even though I really liked the premise, I really liked the magic system, and the ending was still one of the best endings that I've read in a series. I think it was so well thought out there. But like the two main characters, Vin and Elend, bored me to tears. So, there is that. I picked up Star, whatever the first book is, on a whim. I did it on audio, and as a YA book, I enjoyed it so much. So I'm planning on continuing on with that series and seeing what happens, especially now the fourth book has just come out. Then we have Malazan. I've just finished book 5, which was Midnight Tides, I think it was. I really enjoyed it. A lot of people don't seem to like book 5. It's probably my favorite of the series so far. It definitely had a lot more philosophizing in there than some of the other books, but I've been really enjoying my time with Malazan, and I'm looking to close that one out. It is definitely on the list to close out in 2024. I feel like my first read through of Malazan is very much 60% I don't know what's happening here, and 40% this is really cool. So we'll see how that goes. The next one that I've got here is The Will of the Wayfinder by Lily Ann Crow. I love Dust of Dreams. I think Lily Ann Crow is such an underrated author that more people need to go and look up their work. The Dust of Dreams was really fun to follow. I'm looking at picking up book 2, River of Stars, early next year, so that's definitely on the list. The next one I picked up was the Weavlian, I can't pronounce it, Chronicles, by Aaron N. Hall. This is a YA series and very enjoyable, very simple story premise. But if you're looking for something just to slot in, it's a bit of a Noble Bright story. It's got a lot of sort of Christian and faith elements in it, so that may or may not be your thing. I actually asked the author whether this was written as Christian fantasy because it came across to me that way, and he said that he was quite faith focused when he was younger. But the series does progress and become a bit more open as it goes along. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun, simple story, some really good messages in there, and it packed a punch for a younger audience. So I am looking at finishing up that one at some point. It's currently not on the plans for next year, but we'll see. The next is A Forging of Age by Tatiana Obey. This is a duology, and I need to read the second book, which I think is Dragon Your Bones. From memory, I loved book 1. I think it's one of the most important books that I've read in 2023, and I am looking at finishing this one up early 2024. Next one is The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Carhill. I've only just scratched the surface of my time with The Bound and the Broken by reading The Fall. I thought it was an okay novella. It was fun for what it was. It was probably about a 3.5 star read for me. I don't know where this series is going to sit for me personally, but I think if I'm reaching for something that's very sort of classic fantasy for the sake of being classic fantasy, a lot of people love it for that. So I definitely think this is one I'm going to have to be in the mood for to pick up, because those sorts of stories don't tend to be what I gravitate towards. I tend to look for a lot of deeper meaning in the reads and the themes there. So maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read the first book. I think I own 2 or 3 of them on ebook. So if I am wrong, please let me know. But I'm not sure where this is going to fit in my own reading tastes. The Doctrines of Fire by C.L. Jarvis. I've read book 1, I've got book 2, and I've pre-ordered books 3 and 4 coming out next year. This is a historical fantasy series set in Edinburgh in the 18th century, and Edinburgh. I don't know. I asked Rachel before I filmed this, and I still can't remember. Yes, I'm an idiot. That's fine. I accept that. But I really like the first book, and I'm looking forward to carrying on with the series sometime next year. We've got The Tainted Dominion by Crystal Matar. I read Legacy of the Brightwash this year. I was ruined by Legacy of the Brightwash this year, and I can't wait to be ruined again by Legacy of Brick and Bone sometime in 2024. Then we have Divinity's Twilight by Christopher Russell. I read the first book. I was reading it with a couple of people, and most of them dropped off. And then Andy Peliquin, who was in that group, just like blitzed it and said it was great. And I was way slower. This is one of those books that I'm still thinking about. There are parts of this book which I've carried with me since reading it, which I think is, such a powerful thing for an author to do, is have something from their work continually be thought about, continually be in someone's mind. And Christopher Russell did that for me. I'm looking forward to book 2. It's currently not on the cards for 2024. In all honesty, I know he's working on book 3 right now. So maybe if book 3 comes out next year, I might fit it in so I can get up to date. Next one is A Time of Falcon and Roses by Jay Torschool. I read Legacy of the Vermilion Blade this year, adored it. One of my favorite books from the year. I think it was such a beautiful read and a beautiful exploration of love in its different forms. And I do have this one set to the second book, which I think is Promise of the Betrayer's Dagger or something like that, early next year. Next up, we've got the Conqueror series by Con Eagledon. At the time of filming, I've not started the second book, Lords of the Bow, but I will be looking to start Lords of the Bow very shortly to get it in December. At the time of filming, it's the 16th of December, so you might see this one a little bit late. I'm not sure. But yes, I am going to finish that one up in March, I think. So Christopher Narvo and I are trying to do a book a month at the moment, I believe. We've read the first book, and we will be moving on to the second book this month, and then one per month until the series is done. The next one on here is a book that I've only recently just read, and it blew my socks off. This is the Interloper trilogy by Stephen William Hanna, starting with Icebreaker. Icebreaker should be adapted, because there is movies being adapted right now which are nowhere near as good as this book. I friggin' loved it. I need to get to the rest of the series ASAP. I think this is a whole series I'm just going to pick up on a whim. I know I said in like the book haul that I'm trying to be better, but I'm definitely just going to pick up this entire series because it was so good. The next one I have is Fractured Orbit by Herman Struenagel. This was a really surprising space opera. Again, it sits in that sort of new adult age range and so underrated. If you are looking for like a heartfelt adventure space opera that you can read in under 300 pages or around 300 pages, pick up this series. Eclipse was incredible, and I do want to get to book 2 and book 3. I cannot remember what their names are called. One of them's Chimera, and I think one's Resurgent. I think book 2 is Chimera, book 3 is Resurgence. Don't quote me on that. I'm looking forward to finishing the series. The next one is A Dance of Light by Gregory Contaxis. I read Return of the Knights this year. I thought it was fine. I had some criticism for it, but the story itself did exactly what it set out to. And I think that's what's pulling me into the world, is that you know what's going to happen in the book, and it's quite comforting. And it's the same sort of thought I have about The Bound and the Broken, is that I'm going to need to be in the mood for it to enjoy it to its full extent. I have been very graciously given an e-arc, or I mean now it's just a review copy because I didn't get to it, of the novella, and I'm looking forward to getting to that soon. The next one I have was a surprising read for me this year, and that is The Immortal Great Souls. This is by Phil Tucker, starting with Bastion and Rascal Plains, got released this year. I loved Bastion. Bastion is progression fantasy at its peak. It was so good, and the narration was so good. It's so much fun, and a lot of exploration of like friendships and within the progression cultivation sort of genre. And I would love to get to Rascal Plains. It's currently not on my radar for 2024, but I do have it on audio. When it comes to audiobooks for me, they're most likely to be the ones that I'll slip in because if I've got extra reading time. I only ever really book 1 or 2 on my TBRs, and then if I get 3 of them, I'll just slot in something else. So that's a potential. And the last one I have here again is a YA series that shocked me, and that is The Shattered Arch by M.H. Woodscourt. The first book, which I think was of the same name, I'll put the picture up here, really shocked me with how much it packed in such a small book. Book 2 and 3 are now out. I've just received the arc for book 3, even though I didn't get to book 2, so thank you so much to the author for continuing to send those to me. I'm going to try and fit these in at some point next year. They're currently not on the TBR, but they are on the list of things to fit in, should I have room. So, that's it. 32 series that I have got ongoing, some of which I'm hoping to close out next year. We're going to aim for 10 to close out and to not have more than 10 series that I start and want to continue on with. That's going to be difficult. If I want to try and get in as a Spiffbo judge, there's going to be like 20 series, whatever. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. Are there any of these you think I really need to prioritize? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give it one of those. And if you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.